Hi, my name is Nathan Miller. I'm a collaboration specialist with Microsoft. And today we're going to look at design patterns for applications in SharePoint 2013 and how we can host those in the SharePoint app model as well as auto-hosted app models. When you install a SharePoint application within a specific site, SharePoint creates a child site for the application. The target site where the application has been installed is known as the host web, and the child site for the application is known as the app web. The app web provides an application with a scope for private implementation details. You can add declarative items to the app web such as lists, pages, CSS files, images, and JavaScript files. Note that the app has full permission to add items to the app web, but it has no permission by default to add items to the host web. Let's take a look at restrictions on server-side code. Farm solutions give developers the greatest amount of control. You can write server-side code which runs inside SharePoint environments at full trust. You can have full access to SharePoint server-side models within the assembly Microsoft.SharePoint.dll. Sandbox solutions place much greater constrictions on a developer. You can write server-side code, but it runs within a partial trust inside the SharePoint sandbox environment. While you have access to the SharePoint server-side object model, the functionality you can access is only a subset of the available to code running inside the farm solution. SharePoint apps cannot run any server-side code whatsoever in the SharePoint environment. Therefore, SharePoint apps have no access to the SharePoint server-side object model. However, SharePoint apps can access SharePoint from across network using client-side object model, or CSOM, or through the new REST interface. When you begin to think about designing your first SharePoint application, you should understand that there are three basic patterns of where you can deploy your code: a client-side pattern, a server-side pattern, and a hybrid pattern. In the client-side pattern, you create the code behind web pages which include HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript. In general, you should become familiar with client-side programming techniques and learn to leverage popular JavaScript libraries such as ASP.NET Ajax, jQuery, JSRender, and SignalR. In the server-side pattern, you are able to write server-side code using .NET programming languages such as C# or VB.NET. However, you're also responsible for setting up a hosting environment which involves one or more web servers to run your code server-side application. While .NET will be the most popular platform for creating external applications associated with the SharePoint application, it's not a requirement. It is possible to create applications for SharePoint apps using other platforms such as LAMP, Java, PHP, and even ASP. The hybrid pattern is just the style of mixing the client-side pattern together with the server-side pattern. The client-side pattern typically involves adding HTML pages, CSS files, and JavaScript files to the application web. This makes it possible to add client-side code behind the pages of your app. You can add quite a few other elements to the app as well. Here's a short list of some of those, such as site columns, content types, list definitions, list instances, site pages, web part pages, web parts, and custom master pages. The server-side pattern is great for experienced .NET developers because they are able to write strongly typed code using C# and VB.NET. You also have the flexibility of picking your preferred execution environment, such as .NET 4.0 or .NET 4.5, and not be constrained by the limitations of running the code inside the SharePoint environment. In some scenarios, the external application associated with SharePoint app will be self-contained, which means it has no need to call into SharePoint to access the content. In other scenarios, the external application associated with the SharePoint app will be required to call back into SharePoint to read and write content such as list items and/or documents within the host web or the app web. The hybrid pattern is the most flexible. You can mix and match as much of the client-side code or the server-side code as you would like. In this module, we looked at the different application design patterns, the client-side pattern, the server-side pattern, and then a hybrid pattern. And we also took a look at the restrictions that would come with each.